I've been having some back and forths as to whether or not one should partake or participate in the Mary Jane. And I can't tell you, I don't know. What I will say there, though, is that it's the same shit that's in the drugs that you get over the counter. Only the drugs that you get over the counter, they have other stuff in them. So you get a mixture of drugs and petroleum. You get a mixture of drugs and petroleum. You understand that what you're getting is you're getting a chemical composition. You're getting it's a commercialized witch's brew using the blood of the earth. And it may not even be the blood of the earth. Like, that's the thing, because a lot of us don't study history, and we don't read history, and we don't know history. We don't even know what went on here. And you don't even, like, I've got the Bhagavad Gita here. I got the Upanishads right there. The Bhagavad Gita. Over here on the other side of the room, I got a camera up here that I'm gonna set it up here in a second. I've got it plugged into the side of the laptop. So actually, and it's on. It's ready to do its thing. So all I have to do is I have to switch the software. So I'm gonna switch to the display. I mean, not the display. So if we go, yeah, that's the display. I'm gonna duplicate this real quick. So we're gonna say duplicate the display. And I'm going to call this satellite cam. SATEL. SATELITE. I think I spelled satellite wrong. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to open up Microsoft Edge. That's our web browser. And so you can see me. Well, we're already in Edge now. No turning back. Let's put this in. So satellite has 2 L's. All right, so we'll drop this in here. Satellite. I wanted it to be uppercase, but okay. Oh, and so what I can do is to this scene, we'll add a video capture device, and then we'll just say FaceTime camera. And I was messing around with this iPhone camera on the other computer, and it says iPhone here, but I don't think it's going to come up. And so actually what I can do is if we move that down like that. Now I'm one of those YouTube talking heads doing tutorial videos. The difference is that, like, you can't even see the laptop because the camera's at the top of the screen. But we did set up this thing called the OBS bot cam, the satellite, which doesn't have the camera there. So we're going to go plus, and then we're going to say video capture device. No, it's not existing. Well, we'll mess with the iPhone later. Video capture device. And I named the scene satellite cam. So we're going to call this OBS bot. And we can rename all this stuff later. And what you want to do, I hit the 0 key, OBS. What you want to do is you want to, you can't even see my face. I'm acting like you can. OBS bot cam, BOTCA. Yeah, there we go. Name that camera right there. And then we're going to say device is going to be the OBS bot. And then there's a camera right there. Boom. Oh man, this is a classy setup, right? We should capture this. See if I can get the hotkeys right. And then I'm gonna copy this. You can't. I don't even know. I don't think you can see what I'm doing right now. But I'm copying I just copied that scene. And then let's see if we go back to. I thought we had a picture here, didn't we? No, we just had the desk. Oh. I'm confusing myself. But anyway, that's the OBS bot cam. And then we came over here, came to show you the Book of Mormon. And so where's that camera at? Can't even remember where it is right now. So I came to show you the Book of Mormon that we got over here. And then somewhere we have a Bible as well. Look, the camera's trying to move. It's like looking at everything. I don't know where it's at though. So I'm gonna put this here, and then we can aim this at us right there. And then there's some software that it comes with that so I'm going to switch this camera right here so we can change this from FaceTime cam to OBS bot cam. OBS bot tiny 2 right there. And then it switches right there. And then let's see if we can get the iPhone to work. So we're going to make a new, I don't want to make a new scene because that's going to make, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing. So if we go video capture device and we go, look, we just got iPhone right there. We just go iPhone, okay. And if it were on, it would pop up, but it's not because I did something on the iPhone and now it won't connect to the computers the way it normally does. And anyway, I had to cough there. So that's not the camera we're looking for. So I still got some stuff to figure out over here. Well, I just got to organize the scenes and stuff. But if we go back to FaceTime HD, then you can see me here. So as I started showing you those books because I was getting on about the fact that everything is pretty much just a you're getting desktop drugs. That's what you're getting, and that stuff contains the same stuff it's worse. Like for instance, you have I learned later on in life that ADHD medications, Adderall and Ritalin, were just downers, right? So they slow you down, even you out. And then when you get depressed, well, actually not Adderall. I think Adderall makes you focus, but it's an upper. So it gets you like hype, like methamphetamine. And then the other one, the downer, they use opioids. So those bring you down, they get you low. And then you've got I'm just thinking of some other drugs out there. I don't know what drugs contain marijuana or marijuana extract or whatever, because I don't take drugs. I've never liked drugs ever. But in situations where I've been told by the so-called authorities that, hey, this would be good for you, I have, except for one time. The one time where everybody listened, and it seemed like nobody wanted to listen to me. And why would they? I'm not a PhD doctor. So why are you gonna? I mean, you have no reason to listen to what I have to say about any of this stuff, other than the fact that over the past, I probably showed you like a nice hefty heaping of my crotch there. But I'm gonna see if I can make another camera here. Let's see. So I'm gonna take this one. It's called Close Up Now. I'm just gonna add another camera, and we're gonna call this. We're just gonna say. I'm trying to talk through this, but we really just need to do this right here, right there. And then now, any adjustment I need to make, I'll just make it with my hand. There's some software you can use to do all this stuff, but I haven't installed it yet. And actually, I can show you. Like, because I mean, you're probably thinking like, yo, what kind of camera is this guy using? And that's understandable. So if we go to the desktop, if I can find it, I think I changed it to, no, let's see, desktop. Where is it at? Display. There's what we're looking for. If we go out to Microsoft Edge, this is a browser I use. I use Edge because I can do stuff like this. I can go here and I can go to my tabs from other devices, and then I can look on what my other systems, and I can see, I don't want you looking at my email, but you see I can go into these tabs and I can go to other devices. Oh, you also have these things called workspaces. And so you can have like, look, I got all these different research workspaces and they all have tabs open, 4 tabs here. And then I can open those tabs from any machine. I can open these workspaces from any machine. Microsoft has been working on this for a number of years. They use Azure to sync all this stuff up. A lot of conspiracy theorists say, yo, the government's trying to steal all your data and information, but I've been working in technology long enough to know that the government already has all your data and all your information, like everything. Like they probably know when's the last time you went to the bathroom. And when I say they, I mean like the government as a whole. Like there's no individual in the government that knows this unless they specifically go looking for you and your thing. But there's so many different things. I mean, not only is it just you, it's every other person in the system, every other person connected to the internet. And then it's every event that occurs from person to person on the internet. And all this stuff has to be correlated and, all these different things. And for those of you who are like, yo, this guy's, he's talking crazy talk, right? There was a time where, like, I was very sure that ChatGPT was a thing before it was a thing. And then it became a thing. And then everybody's using it. So it's like, it doesn't matter what I said. I wasn't like some closet genius. I would have been the genius if I would have been like, hey, come look at this. And then I gave it to him. But maybe I wouldn't have been, because I've given people a lot of stuff over the years. I've told many people I started telling people about Bitcoin in 2012. Now, here's the thing, right? I bought Bitcoin and then I held it and I held it and I held it. And then I ran into financial woes. And what Bitcoin I had, I sold off. And then it shot up like another 60 grand. And then I bought some more Bitcoin. And I bought and I bought and I held and I held. And I was going through all kinds of stuff. Like every relationship issue you can imagine, I have experienced. All for the reason of being able to sit here and talk to you. And I think of it like this. Okay, right. With the money that I had invested, I might have lost millions in my ignorance. Also, when Google went public in 1995 at $94 a share, I believe. And whatever the programming is, the demon, the ignorance in me, right? I was afraid to buy those shares, and so I bought some car rims instead. It cost me $5 grand. Those $5,000 would have bought me 5,000 divided by 94, and then you take all of the stock splits that Google has had since then, and then the current share price is, so I believe, a couple $100 a share, and that's how much money I would have had. Again, like millions. But I've experienced all this stuff, so I could come talk to you and tell you about these things. And what am I here to say exactly? Well, in this video, keep it short. I don't know if you should use marijuana or not. And nobody else knows either. You got to look for the results that you want. And maybe you're not getting those results. And then it's like, why? Why aren't you getting those results? It must be something to do with you. But is it your actions, or is it your thoughts? Or do your actions lead to your thoughts? Or do your thoughts lead to your actions? There's a book, actually, written by a guy named Tony Robbins called Awaken the Giant Within. The first time I saw this book or heard about this book, I was a kid. It was like I saw it on a late night infomercial. I'm looking around because I have it here somewhere. It was on the other side of these books. So if I like, I think this is it. Yeah. Waken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And the first time I saw Tony Robbins, I think it was the first time, it was on a late night infomercial. And I would stay up. This was before I started school. I would stay up until like as late as I wanted, right? Until I fell asleep pretty much. Unless my mom told me that I had to go to bed. And then sometimes she would make me go to bed with her and sleep in her bed, and then sometimes I would have to sleep in my bed. Typically, I guess she would be doing something in her room that she didn't want me to know or see. I didn't know what it was back then, but now that I'm an adult, I know exactly what was going on. She was either snorting some coke, smoking some weed, watching some porn, or, you know, if somebody was over, they were doing all of that, snorting coke, smoking weed, and watching. So, yeah. So in times like that, what would happen to me is I would just be up late watching TV, and I remember Tony Robbins talking about peak state. He might even have it in the book. He's like, yo, you got to throw your hands up over your head. All right, let's see. Let's go through the little bit of the index. Dreams of destiny. We've got decisions, the pathways to power, the force that shapes your life, belief systems, the power to create. Can change happen in an instant? How to change anything in your life? How to get what you really want? The vocabulary of ultimate success. Questions are the answers. The 10 emotions of power. And this is all stuff like, he started me on the track. It was him and Robert Kiyosaki that got me going. And I got a few books. I got a few books from Robert too. I got these two right here. And then his most famous book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. See, I've got the ABCs of writing a winning business plan. And then I've got Unfair Advantage. And he has another book called I have that one too, Cash Flow Quadrant. And he's got Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he has another book called Fake, where he talks about money, he talks about the Federal Reserve and stuff like that. I learned about the Federal Reserve. I really learned about it from a documentary called Money Masters. You can find it on YouTube now. It's like 3 hours long. The first time I don't know where I saw that documentary, because I saw it before I knew about YouTube. And I learned about YouTube in 2007 when I was on staff duty in Germany. I was in the army at the time. Staff duties, you have to go and you sit all night. Basically, you're not really guarding anything because you're on a military base and you don't have any weapons, but you're there in case something happens and like the phones start ringing. And so you got everybody's phone number. So you call them the commander, the first sergeant, then you start calling. So you just go down the roster, and then, you know, like if World War III starts, you got to have a way to get a hold of everybody. Now everybody has cell phones. Maybe when you're on staff duty, you send text messages or something. Maybe there's like a group, like a Facebook group. I'm making jokes, but that's where I learned about it. At I was on staff. I was sitting up all night, and this guy that I was with on staff duty, he was one of my soldiers at the time. See, we were all communication soldiers, telecommunication soldiers, and I think he had just came to the unit a little bit prior to us going to Germany. But anyway, so we're on staff duty, and he showed me this video on YouTube, and it was of this liquid, and the guy was playing sound, and the liquid was like turning solid and moving around and all this stuff. And this is all stuff I had seen before, and I had heard about it before, because like from the day I was born, and I just told you, right? Like I was watching Tony Robbins at like 4 years old at 3 a.m, sucking on crack. Oh man. I used to find like little cut up straws all around the house, and I didn't know what they were when I was a kid, and I didn't really think about it when we moved away from that apartment, and then to another apartment, and then to another apartment, and then we moved it. Like it just, I didn't think about it anymore until I grew up, and I was like, yo, like hold on. And so I haven't tried, so I don't know. But I'm pretty sure I know what cocaine tastes like and feels like, because I used to get lit as a baby. Like I remember I would crawl around and find these straws, and I would just suck on them like, and it was like bitter. It wasn't sweet. Like it's a very distinct taste. I haven't tasted any. I can taste it right now, but I haven't tasted anything like that. I think maybe the closest thing would be, funny enough, baking soda, because that's what you cut. Like when you want to be a sneaky devil, and you can't use too much, right? If you use too much baking soda, you can taste it. But so to somebody who's never done this stuff before, it's like, and if they don't know what baking soda is, then that's just what it tastes like. But this stuff, what I was getting the pure stuff, at least for a little while. It was this stuff anyway. And so then, yeah, and then later on, and then you could use baby laxative too, right? And I saw, look, man, I'm telling you, this is the taste of cocaine across the 1980s till we got to crack, man. So look, I don't know if you should do marijuana. Like, I think there's some people who are just gonna be, if you got to have some discipline. You got to have some control about yourself. And don't be fooled like the people, the politicians and these people, like they're high all the time. Like I didn't want to say anything when it was going on, but if you're looking at the screen and you're like, "Yo, is this person high?" They probably are. But then you're like, what are the results? If there's peace in the Middle East and the cash is flowing and everybody's happy, then maybe. But then look into the future. Like, where is this going to lead us? I saw when I was I knew exactly where all this stuff was going, but nobody wants to talk to me. The little black kid who used to suck on cocaine straws from the south side of Chicago about fifth generation warfare and the fourth turning. And how, yeah, it's quite like the economy, it most likely will crash because it's not the first time an economy has crashed. Germany's doing fantastic. And after World War One, they were completely decimated, in debt to everybody. Well, at least it seems they're doing fantastic right now. That's what led to World War Two. And then they got decimated, like, again. But now they're doing good, right? Everybody in America wants a Mercedes-Benz, despite the fact that, we lost. And I guess I say that loosely because us here in this generation, we didn't lose anything. It's like, the black people, the so-called black people, they go around, they talk about how they've been wronged and all this. The Japanese had bombs dropped on them. Germany, that's like completely eviscerated. And if you study the history, and I mean, like, what you're taught in school is cool, but tell me one textbook that you read from beginning to end. And if you can, yeah, depending on what textbook. If you read the math textbook from beginning to end, you're probably in the top 10 to 1% of earners in the United States. You probably went to college for free on a scholarship. And you probably studied, well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to get a scholarship, why not go be a doctor? So, but yeah, that's only if you were like super duper in the math. Like if you were the kid that took the textbook home, it was like, all right, I'm going to know this. And this is kind of the trick of school, right? In the situations where you can take the books home. Because the system is the system. The system always knows. So the education system is going to know. Who knows? This is how you know if anybody knows. You ask them questions, and the answers they give you will tell you if they read the book. So if you really pay attention to it, and see, this is why I'd be wanting to keep these videos to like 12 minutes. But what I'm going to start doing, it's because sometimes I just be talking, man, and I be going. And so what I need to do is I have notebooks everywhere in this place. And I've got I had a stack of them earlier. And I want to start a new notebook for everything I think about. I want a new notebook, but then it gets hard to keep track of all these notebooks. But I got this one here. I got this from one of my managers. He actually fired me roughly, probably like 10 months later. I wasn't a very good employee though, to be honest. I've never been a good employee. When I joined that's a lie. That's a lie. I've been a good employee when I've worked for the owner of the business. Managers don't have any power. They can't do anything. They can just they can't they can't even make recommendations really. Like they have no juice. They're just there to, I don't know, right? That's a lie. Their managers are necessary to the extent that they keep the team functioning and flowing. And this is what I would have done too. Like I would have been like, "Hey, why is my team not functioning and flowing?" But the team was functioning and flowing. And it was because this, see, here's the thing, right? This is what people don't get. Right? For the enterprise to do what the enterprise has to do, then some things need to happen along the way. So if the business needs to make more money, or the business needs to be secure, or right, you'll get people in the organization who they aren't necessarily there for the money. They're there for something else. Like the money is good. You take the money. But for people who don't have discernment, they believe that others are there for the same reasons as them. Like I believed that people went to work in order to learn something, in order to be fulfilled. But it turns out that people go to work to get money, most of them, and most of them are unhappy. So they spend that money on things that they believe will make them happy, but it's typically not for them. It's for the people around them. And in the beginning, it's fun, but eventually, like if you keep going, most of the people around you, they won't be able to keep up. And what'll happen is you'll get more money, and they won't get less. They'll be getting more money too, but it won't be as much as yours, so it'll seem like less to them. And then eventually, everything that you say and talk about becomes you bragging about what you have and what they don't have. Even that's not the intent. Like that's not how you're trying to come off. That's not. But it's how it is because of the education system. And so I've talked about this notebook because I was like, yo, I got to write down these ideas so I can come back and talk about education. I might have it somewhere. I might have it somewhere up here on this whiteboard that I got over here. But when you think about it, right? And I learned this from my first it was my experience in the military, and then it was my experience in the corporate world. And at some point early on, I told myself I wanted to be a businessman. And this was after I saw Wall Street. Again, I believe I saw Wall Street maybe after I started school. It's tempting to say that everything that I know I learned before the age of 6, but that would just be a lie. But I do remember Wall Street being one of my favorite movies with Michael Douglas. I used to be under the impression that I couldn't remember the names of all these actors and actresses. I had this friend named Nick when I was in the Army, and he would remember everybody's name. It's absolutely amazing. All these different, like a song would play on the radio, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's Cyndi Lauper from this album and this song." And over time, I realized that I've been able to do the same thing with books and names that he was doing with music and whatever. And some people can do it with video games. Some people do it with phone numbers. Everybody has this little quirk. I'm not even that, like books and stuff like this. That's just a small portion. Like I'm able to piece these things together in ways that they shouldn't be, because like they unravel reality to an extent. Like education, for instance. what I realize is that you can tell who knows because, right? If you're doing anything with anybody, and there's any sort of book or manual or paperwork or documentation involved, if you've read it, you know who else hasn't. But you only know by their actions and by their words. And then you can be like, hey, did you read the book? And they'll, if they're honest, they'll say no. If they're afraid or see, and here's the thing, right? Fear can cause dishonesty. So they'll be like, yeah, I read it, but I can't remember it. Or I don't remember that part. Or I don't remember this part. But they most likely didn't read it. Like if you've ever had a situation where you were supposed to read something and you didn't, and we see it in the movies. The movies tell us what to do. They tell us what to do and they tell us what not to do at the same time. Everything you see in the television and in the news is the opposite of what's going on in reality. But it's telling you the opposite, so you go and do it. Because if you do that thing, then in reality, it seems like some people can predict what's going to happen next. Now, some people call this predictive programming and all this. Like you can get all kinds of fancy with this stuff, but it's just reality. It's just, that's how all of reality works. Down from the atoms all the way up to the planets. It's the same. And then you have this intelligence, and it's not the people. It's something that inhabits the people. It's something that makes the people. Like we talk about these aliens coming from, there's a movie. There's a movie with Kevin Spacey that tells you about aliens and how they got here and this, that, and the third. And, but when you look at the movies, they show, and it depends, right? I'm not, because there's no set formula for casting spells. Those who really know, they can make their own magic. See, that's another secret in the movies. It didn't tell you that. The movies like, oh, you got to have this book. I got another book up here. That's the book. This is like, you could just buy this book. It's a book of symbols, but everything is symbols. The whole world is symbols. All the words come from symbols. This is what this is. This is a cool scene right here. I think if let me see if I can Command Shift V. I want to make sure, yeah, that I have my I need to make sure that I have the multi clipboard application set up. So when I copy these during the video, it's I have all of those available. But yeah, it's all just symbols. So when you take, and that's me jumping around a little bit. We'll get back to the symbols at some point, maybe in a future video, maybe in this one. Education in school, though, the deal is that, okay, the kids come to class, they take a lesson. Somebody's told the teacher, hey, you're going to do this, this, and this. This is your lesson plan. Or maybe the teacher comes up with the lesson plan and it's approved. For whatever reason, you don't go through the entire book. But when you get the test at the end of the year, or periodically throughout the year, the test is going to cover certain material. What happened, or happens a lot of the times, is the tests would cover material that the teacher didn't cover. But somehow you'd always have some students in the class that got the answers right, though they had never read the material. And so instantaneously, you know, like who's going home and reading the books. Now, you may not know, but you know. And those are the people that are going to excel, obviously, because they get a little information and then they go and they get all the information. And then you have those that are distracted, like me. I grew up watching TV. So when it came time to go to school and I was there, I knew everything that I needed to know to teach myself at that point. I didn't know everything about the world, but I knew how to read. Sesame Street taught me how to figure out the letters, along with Mr. Rogers and Captain Kangaroo and Bozo the Clown and Saturday morning cartoons. I learned about classical music from watching Tom and Jerry. I got witty quips from, all the different TV shows that I used to watch. And I had access to a bunch of encyclopedias because at one point, people would make a living going door to door selling encyclopedia subscriptions. And despite the fact that I grew up on what would be considered the South Side in one of the most dangerous areas of Chicago, and I used to think that way too, like, oh, so no, it's not dangerous. Chicago isn't dangerous. The situation is not good, but people without interference would just get along. But when somebody comes along and they sow seeds of dissent, then that's when you have there's no reason for gang violence unless you give them a reason. And we're told that, the reason is because they want turf or they want territory. And we're told the same thing about wars. But when you really think about it, just really think about this. Let's say, for instance, China and the United States. What would China have to gain from bombing or attacking or murdering everybody in the United States? What would they get? They would get a bunch of oil, a bunch of trees, a bunch of land. What? What are you going to do with all this stuff? So in the hood, what do you gain from killing your neighbor, your cousin, your brother, your sister? They're not really gaining any land because they don't own anything. If somebody comes and buys all of the vacant lots, and then the police show up and escort them in, and then the police show up and they really have a show of, that's gentrification. But we're told that it goes some different kind of way. But when you really think about it, that's the way it goes. Right? Somebody who has some money, they go and they don't even. You don't have to have a lot of money because it's so dangerous. Nobody wants to buy in the area, so the value, the cost is very low. So they could have even less money than the guys on the street shooting at each other. But because they took a different avenue, now you have this whole apparatus called the government that carries guns legally, and they say that you cannot infringe upon our members' rights. Like, they belong to our gang, and you can't fuck with the people in our gang because we got bigger guns than you. That's all the government and the police are. And so if you're a part of the gang, you got to kick up. Right? Is it like we see this in every mafia movie? You got to pay tax. And look, right? If you're a big earner, then you don't pay tax because you're the organization. There's a guy, Michael Francis, and I go again, right? Like, you see me, I could go all over the place. He was a gangster in New York, and he said a lot of stuff about politicians. But he had at this gas station operation. And see, here's the thing, right? People like that are fearless. People like me, there's some sort of fear that's placed into us early on. And it's not necessarily a fear in a traditional sense. It's this desire to be accepted by the group, to be accepted by the crew. And it's sort of I could say, some would say that it's on purpose. Like, it's done specifically to black people to keep black people from whatever. But maybe so. Like, there's black is a term. It's not a thing. It's not an identity. And actually, if you dig into the history, it's a political tool. Like, there is the color codes. And the color codes come, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm just going to leave it there. Maybe I'll come back across it at some point, but these are legal classifications. That's why when you get documents, they ask you on the are you Hispanic, you're Native American, you're black, you're this, that, and the third, right? And then that's all this information is coalesced and collated in whatever, and then you can say, oh, we got X amount of people here and X amount of people there, and this, that, and the third. But these are all legal classifications, and these legal classifications give you access to certain things. For instance, if you belong to a tribe in America, then you have to have all this proof you belong to the tribe, so there's some things you got to go through. There's a lot of people in America who believe that they are so-called black, but they're not black. But that's a history thing. And it's like, those who know, they know. If you come across somebody and you know this history, the real history, and they start talking about black this and black that, like they're outside of the group, and so you extend them a different courtesy than you extend the people inside of the group. It's just like the justice system. The people inside the group extend a different courtesy to the people outside of the group. The police, they'll come and shake your hand, but the criminal, they'll shake their hand too until they see them doing some criminal stuff, because that's what you play that game. But then there's a whole different game that's played inside of that game, and these are the dimensions of the universe. But you go to school and they'll get you all the way out there in the clouds, and you'd be worried about how to get to the moon. And like here on Earth, there's no class that teaches how we going to terraform the moon when nobody on Earth knows how to grow anything right here on Earth. Can you go outside and grow something out of the ground and eat it next year? There's like very few people can do that. 12 years of school and 249 years, 1776. 250 years will be next year for America. And we grow less food, and we grow food, but it's not food. There are books from earlier. Look, there's books so old that the stuff that's in them, like the fruits and like we don't even know what they are. And then you get the egghead scientists, they go to school and they're like, they trace all this stuff and they do all this science. And they're like, oh, this evolved into that and this evolved in. Look, man, like all this stuff was in America prior to a certain period of time. And then it wasn't. Like we used to have a bunch of buffalo. What happened to all the buffalo? We know what happened to the buffalo. And so why wouldn't that happen? What happened to all the trees? Every town in America, every little town, some people call it the sundown towns. Like people make up this stuff. Like they haven't read any. And I'm not saying you got to go read some books. They haven't studied anything. They haven't had any conversations with anybody who's telling them the truth about anything. They're just listening to what other people are saying. And they're being controlled by the people who don't listen to what other people are saying. Like you don't need any degrees to be successful in America. You don't even have to be of a certain age. You can go and start a corporation tomorrow. And I'm not even sure that you need any proof of identity, as long as you got the pay. Like you put your name in it, like at some point, if you have to prove that the assets of this entity that exists, and it exists because you register it with a larger governmental body. So the state knows that this corporation exists and they know who started. See, here's the thing. The government, the United States government at least, is obsessed with remembering stuff. So everything you want to know, the government knows it. That's why I said early on, they know everything already. And when I say they, it's not the aliens in outer space. It's right, the aliens on Earth. God is the government. It's all the governments, and they're all fighting for what? Attention, for souls, for tax dollars. See, China doesn't want to kill everybody. That's a trick. They would much rather us give them our attention and mental power. physical power, depending on who needs it. Like, depending on who sets their imagination to what. Elon Musk, for instance, there is a device he had, and a lot of people, he took a picture, and like, the device was in the picture on purpose. If you look up what an unk is, and it's a cross with this circle on it, inside of the unk, sometimes you'll see this device, and that device, some believe, is used to make electricity. I think it's like kind of some sort of it was some sort of communication tool, or maybe even like it gave the holder the ability to do something with the physical form. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is because he has this, when he took the picture, he has this thing there, and that's an indicator that he knows something. Like, he's a part of some understanding. Like, some people, oh, he's a part of the Illuminati or the Masons or whatever. Like, those are names. They're concepts encompassing an understanding. The government is a concept encompassing a belief system. The government does not exist. There is no government. Like, it's not you can't go pick the government's nose. You can't. The government, it's a spiritual entity. Like, it exists only in the minds of men and women, which have been turned around as well. Like, womb, WOMB, man, womb, man. And then the man comes from the womb, man. Every child loves their mother. They don't care too much for the father. In most cases. Most cases. Nearly all cases, the mother will be more important to the child than the father. This is difficult for men to wrap their heads around. That's why they have to dominate everything. But at the same time, right, you have some disagreeable men and you have some agreeable men. And so what you need agreeable men with the disagreeable, who are able to obtain a disagreeable disposition in order to keep the truly disagreeable men from expressing how they really feel towards women. And it's not like men dislike women, like, not because we all have mothers, but the men who've had interesting mothers, they may, it's like, and that, like, we're getting into this realm of psychology, and like, I'm going down that because, like, this is a psychological game. Like, that's the point. Like, everything here is to get you to play the game. And not everybody's suited for it because you're a stranger in a strange land. It's difficult sometimes to exist in a place where things are fake. And for the most part, in this current abstraction of reality, most things are fake. Like, there's people walking around talking about they eat organic and all this stuff. Go to their house. They got a lawn in the front, a lawn in the back. They don't grow anything. They buy everything from the grocery store. It used to be you get organic stuff from the grocery store, and it was really organic. But I had the question many years ago. I said, like, okay, if you can go to the grocery store and you can get food, like, I can buy broccoli, and then I can turn over here and I can buy organic broccoli. Then what's that? Nobody wants to talk about that. We'll talk about the price. Well, this broccoli is cheaper. But why is it cheaper? We'll talk about the price, but we'll never talk about business. It's cheaper because it's not real. and we can make more of it, and we can sell more of it. This is real. It takes longer. It's better for you. The money isn't really real. Like, here's the thing. If you spent the money and you ate the portion of the good stuff that you're supposed to, it would all balance out. This is why you can eat all of the vegetables, the non-organic ones, and you can still have all kinds of... That's one reason you can still be fat. You can still be depressed. You can still have all these mental problems going on, even though you eat what you're told is the healthy, because it's not real. That's real. And not even when you go, I'm going to be vegan or healthy, or and then you're just going to eat organic. Like, you're getting... You're getting the same stuff. And now we've reached this point where you can, you can run off to the store and you can get yourself some Mary Jane, but is it really? We don't know. Like, everything is so far removed from reality. We're surrounded by all this dirt and nothing comes out of it. We all get in our cars and drive. And when you think, like, really think about this, what we see, like, these were little paths that people used to walk on. We just made them bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then eventually somebody had a hand cart, and then somebody put a motor on it. Then somebody put some doors on it. And then somebody was like, yo, I can make my hand cart look better than yours. And then somebody's like, no, I can't. And then we're all making our own hand carts. And then something happens. And we all end up in factories, going to work to buy. What used to fascinate me in the military is you'd have, like, in a platoon of people, you know the amount of money everybody earns. So it's not like somebody's out performing in some area of their life where they can afford a better car. What happens is like, who had the better credit, and maybe you were able to save some money for a down payment, or maybe you were able to get somebody to coach. Like, that's how you got a better car. Or maybe you won the lottery, or like you came into the military with a certain amount of money or something like that. But that's like 90% of the time, that's not the case. Like, people aren't enlisting in the army. Like, there's some who do, but they have a very specific mission. They know what they're here for. They came for a very specific thing. And so they'll enlist and they'll go through all of the ranks, and then they'll go officer, and then they'll go through, because that's their career. They are joining a cult, a culture that they know they are not going to leave. Like, there is nothing outside of that thing that they want to pursue, that they need to pursue. Is going to provide the entire lifestyle that they want. And they're going to participate in all the activities they want to participate in. That's why they're there. That's what those institutions are designed for. They're designed for those types of people. And then sometimes things change. You meet someone, or you get married, or you have some kids, and you're like, oh, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then, things could get tough, depending on where your mind is. Yeah. So should you do some, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. But it might be, if you think so. So you try just a little bit, but don't get addicted. You can't get addicted. Like, that's the thing. Like, when you see somebody who's addicted to something, it's because there's nothing else for them to grab onto. And nobody is going to really talk to them long enough to figure out what that thing is. And then extend the hand with the object in it. Like, like, we could go like real deep. But there's some people out here who end up on drugs and addicted to things because they don't, there's nothing else for them. Like, they just have no one else to communicate with. And so they find the demon. And again, right, like the Bible and the books, they'll tell you that all of this shit is out there in outer space somewhere. And then you'll get people who come, oh, I had this experience and that experience. Like, they just make it like, you don't know, man. Like, if it's happened to you, then you know. And then that's your experience. You going, and unless you're gonna sell it in a book, in a story, and it's gonna make your life easier, ain't nobody trying to hear it straight up. Like, if you come at people with the truth, they're gonna call you crazy. But if you put it in a science fiction novel, and like you can really church it up and sell it, you can make $1 billion. Name that shit Star Wars or Mr. Robot or something. So yeah, this was for the real ones. Like, if you're here at 55 minutes and 39 seconds, like, there is something that you're chasing in this world. And maybe this cozy setup that I put here with my fake flames, which you can see because of the angle of the computer, but it still looks pretty dope, right? And it's blowing heat too. I don't know what the temperature is out here, but I've been fairly warm, and I've got the vortex heater up there, so this is yeah. I record a lot of videos like this, but I'm like, I recorded a video once, and somebody left a comment. And if they're watching this right now, like, hey, you're a real one too. Maybe you did me a favor. Yeah. But yeah, they left a comment and it stuck with me. They was like, this guy, like, what is he even talking about? He's sort of all over the place. Everybody on the internet's trying to teach something, but nobody's really teaching anything. Because you don't need anybody else to learn anything. You don't need a classroom. You need a book and a dictionary, and you're good to go. That's all you need. Whatever the subject. Want to learn JavaScript? Cool, man. Pick up a book. This isn't even JavaScript. This is Java. I got the stock market right there. I got a JavaScript, eloquent JavaScript, right? You pick up a book. You're going to go through this book, and somewhere in here, there will be a word. Variable. What the fuck is that? Right? Like, row height. Like, and so, but you can start at the beginning of the book, and they're going to tell you, like, what's in the book. They're going to tell you how they wrote the book, because everybody wants to talk about themselves, man. They want someone to listen. But you put this stuff, like, regular people don't listen to. This is the whole internet's composed of this stuff right here, and it's not complicated. It's only made to seem complicated by people who, like, you remember the mean girls and the bullies in school? Right? They don't write these books. They just construct things around them that make them seem like, that make this stuff seems like it's over the top. And some of them are paid to do that. Because if you knew what I'm about to tell you, and this goes for anything, like, should you smoke some married? I don't, like, master it, go learn it, get a book about it, and then get a dictionary. And when you come across a word you don't understand, you look up the word, and now you get the internet. You can, every word in every book, you could write a book about it. And that kind of messed me up, because I've been fired more times than I was going to say more times. I haven't been fired more times than I can count. I've been hired more than I've been fired, for sure. But I got to stop getting fired, which means I got to stop working for people. Maybe I need a better boss. I'll make you my boss. You can be my boss. You be the better boss for me. I will share with you what I know. And you can follow me in my learning and sharing. But I want to follow you in your learning and sharing, because all you need is a book and a dictionary. And then the other stuff, you'll know when you need it. But you can't let anybody else push you onto that path. Like, if you haven't studied math, you ain't going to be no biologist. If you don't like math, it ain't for you. Right? If you didn't study math, you ain't working at Google. You ain't working at Amazon. You ain't working at Microsoft. You ain't working at, right? You can get there. You can get close. But then you're gonna have to know some stuff. And I'm not saying like hey, like math is the thing. You have to absolutely study math. What I'm saying is that mathematics, this is how you know. You know if somebody read the books or not. Because it's all words. And then There's the gymnastics of translating the concept into the symbol that you're shown. But if you go back and forwards between the word and the symbol enough, then the symbols will stick. They'll become a second language. I remember at one time 2300 seemed like this foreign thing to me, but that's just 11 at night. 24, there is no 24. The clock strikes 24, but it's really 0000 or 000 or like there's a, and like if you really get down into it, they tried to pull this with the Epstein tapes at midnight, right? The tapes reset and it's like, okay, nah, that's not true. That wasn't even the cell door. Like that's like they'll say it's a part of the system of spells. Like we're not gonna go down into all of that stuff, but what you're seeing is only half truths, and the whole truth is stranger than fiction in the sense that it's not stranger than fiction. Like when the aliens come, like we saw Independence Day, and the thing came over the White House, and then like they hacked it, they shut down the spaceship with the Apple computer. That's not gonna happen in real life. Well, not quite like that. And when it does, it ain't gonna be an Apple computer to stop it. But for the most part, like those things are going on here on Earth right now. But they're given these grandiose representations in Hollywood, and they make what's happening in reality look very, very dull. That's an enticing method. Entertainment entertains us. Like, I watched a lot of hacker movies, and like here I am, right? And so, but this isn't a set. Like this is my life, and it's been very grunge, like what some of these characters I would have watched experience. But this is for real. Like I read these books. Like I didn't just buy these so I could put them here. Like I've studied from all of them. I haven't read them all cover to cover. That would be psychotic. There's my Bible, the King James Bible. I got this Bible from my ex-wife's mother, and I've been tempted to throw it away sometimes, but as you can see, it's just giving me $5. So, and she didn't put that there. I've got money in all of these books of varying denominations. But yeah, this is like my little spell book, and it's very this is a very commercialized version, but this is the King James and the New King James parallel reference. King James wrote the Bible in 1611, and he didn't write it. He assembled like 57 scholars. They removed a bunch of books. There's actually a better Bible, the Ethiopian Bible, or the Tuedo Biblical Canon, and it contains 88 books, whereas this Bible contains 66, I think. I may be wrong. I could be wrong. Those numbers just stick out of my head. But the Tuedo Biblical Canon contains more books. It has the Book of Enoch and some other stuff. And I haven't read this thing from cover to cover. I haven't read the other one from cover to cover. I haven't read any. There are some books. I read Dianetics from cover to cover, I think. And I read this one here, Rule 1 Investor. I read this from cover to cover. I'm not sure that I've ever read the Awaken the Giant Within from cover to cover. But I'm going to have a book club. So if you want to join my book club, then I'll give you a link for that. But in there, we're going to be going through a lot of books. But not just any books. These are we can use these books for stuff. So the Rule 1 Investor, this lays out the investment strategy of Benjamin Graham, who wrote Securities Analysis, and it was adapted by Warren Buffett. And I believe that this guy here, this isn't the name. This is the guy who wrote the book is Gregory Zuckerman, but the guy he's talking about is Jim Simon. And Jim Simon, he's called the man that beat the market because he started a fund called the Medallion Fund some time ago, and it's not a public fund. Like you can't Maybe you could. I don't know. Maybe you could. You can't buy into it, and is managed by. It's like a team. I think the company itself is 300 people or so, and they're obsessed, and they don't talk to anybody. They don't do interviews. They don't, like, the outside world does not exist to them, and because they're so rich, the outside world doesn't need to exist to them. In securities analysis, like I said, Phil Town, like he breaks this down in his book, very simple, right? It's all about the numbers. And you, in the markets, what you do is you find a business that's undervalued and you buy it, and then you either wait for everybody else to realize that you have a business that's worth buying, and then you sell it to them at a premium, or you advertise that you have a business that's worth buying and you sell it to them at a premium, or you just advertise the products and services of the business. And as the business makes money and it becomes more popular, then you get exponential growth. And so that means the depending on the company and how they pay out shareholders. And what'll happen is you have companies that'll pay a dividend, and so that's a percentage of profits paid out to every shareholder. But if you have, let's say, for instance, 1 trillion shares outstanding, then that would be there is no dividend that you could pay to all the shareholders. You would have to make $1 trillion in profit every year. So what happens now in these larger companies, you'll have like $1 trillion market. Like if somebody says, "Oh, Microsoft is worth $4 trillion," like, okay, do they have $4 trillion worth of stuff? No. They have 4 trillion people that have bought stock, and they're counting on that stock to not lose value. And so they're all like hoping and praying that what it is that they got is going to go up in value. But that would be impossible, because the underlying asset can never be worth that much. Microsoft is a campus and a bunch of people who understand how to do some things and a bunch of documentation. But that's pretty much it. Unless they have land or whatever, and maybe they've got the campus, but unless they have other assets, the real value of the company is not what we see in the market. And this isn't a market lesson, but Graham noticed that, and he's like, "Yo, all right. So there's companies that are doing this, and they aren't doing it on purpose. It's just the shares become popular, and when they want money, they just issue more shares." And so it's like, hey, if the shares were $10 today, and I sold them on the public market, and they all sold out, and let's say I sold 10. Let's say I sold them. I sold 1 million shares for $10 a piece. So now I got $10 million in cash. I spend all of that money, right? What's to stop me from just making some more shares and selling those? Like, how am I valuing the operate? Some nature's going by. There's like a little highway that runs by here. So ever so often there's I anticipate either a family of raccoon or a family of deer that are making their way through the hedges over there. Or it could be the neighbor, which would be weird, but stranger things have happened, I suppose. When you first set up a company, you can make up whatever number of shares you want the company to have, and then, right, there's a legal record of it, because when you file the paperwork, you said, "Hey, I have X amount of shares, and I'm going to value them at this," and then now you have an actual valuation. But that valuation is just based on what you say and what somebody else believes. So if you say, "Hey, I started this company, and I got 1 million shares. I'm selling these shares for $100 a piece," and you get 15 people to show up, and they all give you $100, like, that's validation. Now you have a market, right? These 15 people got these shares, and they can say, "Hey, I have a share in this company that's, a percentage. Like, this is just a percentage of it, and it's going to be worth this much or that much." And then somebody says, "Hey, well, I'll buy your share for $20. I'll buy your share for $30. And so then I'm selling you these shares. Now, me as a company, I may notice this and I go, "Oh, snaps. All right. I'm going to sell 1 million more shares, but now I can sell them at $30 a piece. So now I got 30 million. But that money's not in the bank. Hopefully it's in some sort of asset, a product or service that I created or whatever. The biggest asset of all of these big companies is the belief of people. That's the only thing that keeps them in existence. If everybody who owned Microsoft shares was like, hold on, he's right, I got to sell this stuff as soon as I can. It's all going to go to zero. Is it all going to go to zero? Probably not. Like Microsoft is going to exist tomorrow, but the market will be melted down. It's not like they're paying their employees with shareholder money. Hopefully they're not. I mean, not shareholder money, but with they're not selling shares to get money so they can pay their employees. Or I don't know. Like a lot of people have been laid off lately. There's a lot of different things going on. I don't work there. I'm not in the C-suite, right? And this is where the aliens are. Like nobody knows what these people talk about. Who knows who the CFO of Microsoft is? Who knows who the COO is? Nobody thinks about these people. Nobody knows about their personal. They could be into all kinds of crazy, freaky stuff, but we don't know. And then they have meetings behind closed doors, and they move around all these dollar bills, and they can like this. It's a market mover, $1 trillion market cap. If they come out and say anything crazy, like the whole market will go nuts. Hedge funds will be selling, people will be selling, whatever, right? The stock price will go down, right? But if they come out and say something wild, like over the top, like everybody will want to buy shares, and then they could sell some more shares. But who determines how many shares can a company have? Can I make my company have 1 trillion shares if I write it down on some paper? It seems to be the case. If you put it in the bylaws of the business, yeah. Now you have to do some accounting. This is what the government's for. The government is to make sure that as we're out here casting spells, we aren't doing it all willy-nilly and destroying stuff in the process. But when we look at TV, we're looking at Harry Potter. Harry Potter's like, you got to go get your wand. You got to do all this stuff. Yeah, you can. But some wizards don't need wands. They just need a little marijuana. Till next time, team. I usually have like a, I don't know, maybe I got it here. Peace. I have a Substack, but I don't know how I'm going to use it exactly. There's also, I've been thinking about starting this community. So what this will tell me, if you go to f0110w.com, and this is me collecting a little information here, because if you stayed for 1 hour and 12 minutes, you're a real one. Sign up on the Substack, and then I'll know whether or not or how to, like there's a community that I've been thinking about starting, and it's like it's not like a Facebook group where you go and hang out on the internet and do Facebook group type stuff and anybody can join and things like that. Like it's but I don't want to say it's exclusive, but yeah, f0110w.substack.com. SUBSTACK. I could just put some text on the screen or I'd put it in the, look, I'm just going to say it, substack.com. If you hung out with me this long, obviously you want to hang out with me some more. And that's the whole point, is that if I'm an authentic person, you're like, okay, I'll support this guy in his crazy endeavors and whatever the hell he's talking about. Ask him some questions about some things. And maybe we can be of the same guild, where we pass around magical spells. And like, that's how I like to think, as though the world is kind of a fun place. But it really, like, if somebody writes a business plan, it's just a spell. This is just an incantation for affecting something in life. I got Jiminy Cricket over here. He comes and hangs out with me ever so often. You can't see him. He typically comes and gets on the screen. Say hi, Jiminy. I don't know if you can see him there. I don't like moving cameras manually, typically, but I thought I thought maybe you should, and then I thought maybe you should see that that this guy comes and hangs out with me. I have to move the computer so I can see what's going on. Actually, he comes and hangs out with me on a regular. I don't know if it's the same one, but he comes and hangs out on a regular basis. And then the camera, I don't know exact. I could probably zoom in, but anyway. But yeah, I call him Jiminy, like Jiminy Cricket from the Disney movies. And again, I don't know if it's the same character, but I mean, when I say I don't know if it's the same character, I don't know if this is the same grasshopper that came a couple days ago, and then a couple days before that, and then a couple days before that. Or they may not even be a grasshopper. It could be a cricket. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure. Jiminy Cricket is a cricket. There's another movie that had a grasshopper in it, I think. I'm all over the place. F0110W.substack.com. And maybe I'll upload. Look, I write a lot, but it's not all coherent. But it's something to read, and you might learn something from it. I don't. I've been self-conscious about all the stuff I've been researching. I've been doing a lot of stuff with AI, having AI generate, not generate AI slop. Like fucking shit. Like I've written some prompts over time that I'm just thinking about this, right? Like you can learn anything with these things, because of the way they link. And so I don't even know how to explain it in this video. It's imagine the internet and I've recorded videos where I talk about this and like shown me using the software. But imagine having the internet on your computer or on your phone, because I have it synced to multiple devices. That's what you can't see it here. I have to go to the desktop, or like we went into display. And then that was one of the applications you saw here. It's actually, I closed it now. It's called Obsidian. And I have like custom configurations for doing everything. But I've got follow here, and see like I've got tags with me, and then like I just got notes on myself. And then over here we've got, this is actually composed of what's called V3 core, but I think it's still syncing. And so when it's done with this syncing run, it should be at 27,000-ish files. And these are all text files, but they're all some sort of note on something that I had a question about. Like I wanted to research or know something, and so I looked it up, and then I started writing it down. And then I've got a bunch of words in here too. I've got time frames like 300 BC. Like this relates to this note, historical timeline, research and development, R&D. But this note probably hasn't been synced yet. But if we go into our backlinks, if I can remember the right keyboard combination, let's go over here. I'll just click it. If we go into our backlinks, this comes from, so 300 BC is related to Euclid's Elements. So 300 years before the Common Era, or before Christ. And so those are the two different ways we could say it. We have Euclid's Elements is Euclid completes his elements, I guess we'll say, but it's a comprehensive compilation of knowledge about geometry written by the ancient Greek mathematician Euclid around 300 BCE. Now, I take that with a grain of salt. There's a lot of characters in history, like we'll hear that they made something, or they did something, or they wrote something, or they created something. And smart people will go around having conversations about these people as though like they did those things. But then when you attempt to go and research the actual people, you run into all of these holes as though they didn't exist, like as if they were some sort of characters in a movie or something. And so, again, Euclid, I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Shakespeare, I got a big old Shakespeare book around here. And what I'm looking for is I have a book of Euclid's Elements around here somewhere. But again, I don't want to pause the video. I figured it would be close to my math books, but it isn't. Well, and this right here is my favorite math book, Essential Mathematics for Science and Technology. This is actually a book that I have not read from cover to cover, that I intend to read from cover to cover. Like right here, we got logarithmic equations. This stuff looks straight up funky. Logarithmic. This is straight up math gibberish, but it's not, because every symbol here has a name, and then you can look up every name in the dictionary. So we could look at log. What's a log? I don't know. We could just look it up, right? If we go to our dictionary, it'll be like log. And then I've got this. I've got this huge dictionary here. It's like 6,000 words. I have another one over there. And then of course we have the internet. It's got everything on it. And then so let's look up log. Log. There's a book called HIJKL. There's a book called Take Off Your Glasses and See. Because somebody thought just now, oh, he took off his glasses. There's a book called Take Off Your Glasses and See, if you're interested in such a thing. And my wife read it, and she doesn't wear her glasses anymore. Me, myself, I tend not to finish many things. I think it's because of my upbringing, those straws. But I'm typically led to other things. So I probably started reading that book and then like remembered Dianetics and then went and read that and then something else or something. But as you can see, in order to read this book, I don't need my glasses. I need them to see far away. And that's a little spell too. When you, if you know what I'm talking about. Let's look up log real quick, right? Because I wanna show you that in this 1935 dictionary that we have most likely logarithm in here. Log, LMO. I remember learning about alpha. Now that I didn't learn that when I was actually I did. In the encyclopedia I learned about alphabetical order. Never mind. Okay. Log LMNO. I didn't. Yeah, I'm just thinking, did I know my ABCs? I must have known them. But I don't think I had them on lock. I was still wrapping my head around some things when I was carted off to school. A B C D E O, so D, L M N O P Q R O G, so log U. I'm all over the place. I think we went too far. All right, so there we go. We got loftiness. Then we got log. We got log 1, which is lodged, lodging, to cut down and cut out as logs. And then we have a bulky piece of timber cut down and cleared of branches. I don't know why it says, why it give me, oh, logged and logged. But I saw it as lodge in my mind. It's because it says LOGD. So logged is a word. LOGD. Logged is like this tree was cut down. It's been logged. It's been turned to a log. It's not a tree anymore. It's a log. It's a dead body. So it doesn't say that in here. I'm just saying that. All right, and then we got to cut down, get out, to cut down and get out as logs. A bulky piece of timber cut down and cleared of branches. Then we've got log. We got log cabin, house, hut, a small house made of logs. Then we have the second definition of log, to enter in a vessel's log book. This is a little bit of a log. I don't know if I said, hey team, welcome back to our lab. It's your biggest fan. Yeah. I used to say we've brought the ship up to transmission depth yet again to broadcast our pirate signal. See, we have a log, and now it goes all the way down. So we've got log 2, a device for showing the speed of a vessel, record of the daily progress of a vessel. So that's 2. Two things in one. And the speed of the vessel, there's an image here. And this is how they measured, this is how they got knots. Where is it at? Right there. Gotta get it right there. And so this thing right here, this little black thing, they throw off the back of the boat. And then there's knots on this rope. And you count the number of knots, and that'll tell you how fast the boat is going. And so you're measuring the knots across a specified period of time. So you could probably count, right? So you could go like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, or whatever it is they say back then. And then based on how many knots have gone off the back of the boat in the time that you've been counting, that would tell you how fast you're going. So that's how many knots you were going. But I did not know that that device was called a log. So a device for showing the speed of a vessel, the record of the daily progress of the vessel, right? And this is why we keep journals, because you're a traveler. Well, maybe you weren't before you got here. Now, in order to really go on these, like, anyway, I'm not gonna freak you out too much. And just as I said that, I saw the dollar bill. And this is a note that tells a story too, right? You see, you have the eagle here that represents the United States, and then you got this thing here that represents something else entirely. And it's there, and it looks very woo-woo, but nobody talks about it. The people that do know, they're not going to walk around talking about it. And the people that don't know, they don't even ask about it. And so you don't know who knows what, because there are some people who know and they just play dumb. And there are some people who don't know and they aren't dumb. They're very smart. It's just, if you know this stuff, then there's some things that you take a little less serious. But let's keep going down here, because right there we run into logarithm, which is what was in our math book. And this is this 1935 dictionary. Logarithm. And then it has some funky writing. Logarithm math, the exponent of the power to which a fixed number called the base must be raised in order to produce a given number. And then underneath that we have logos, or Lego, Lego, to speak. So, like, did these guys make up this name Lego? No, it was here in 1935 in this dictionary right here. And then we have arithmos, which is kin to number. Now, there's a lot of special fancy, like, not fancy symbols, but there's syntax in here. There's brackets and curly brackets and all these different things, right? This is a programming language. And if you understand the manners and mechanisms of the programming language, then you can program others. And if you don't understand the mechanisms, you can be programmed, and you still can program others. It's sort of like you can do things in the world. You don't know what the results are going to be, but they happen nonetheless. So if you speak to people in a certain kind of way, or treat them a certain kind of way, or do it like, there's a number of different things you can do to transform a person's psyche that we're not aware of. And is beneficial to the system, because if we weren't running around screwing up each other's minds, then there wouldn't be a psychology industry. Go to your state government. You can just go to Google, and like whatever state you live in, ask who's the highest paid person in this state's government, and it's not going to be the governor. It's most likely going to be a psychologist, or an academic, or somebody related to that field. Somebody who's very well versed at navigating the abstractions of reality, right? Because you only need to know addition and subtraction to get along in the world, and everything else is built on top of those. So when we get all the way to this logarithm shit, like this, like, we're layers removed, and the only place that this stuff is applicable is in abstract systems, right? So you're literally you're in heaven, and there's a war going on in heaven, and it's a war of knowledge. It's a war of Who can get who to believe in what long enough in order for us to affect what it is that we want to affect? And we're told by religion that's a heaven on earth, but we're already in heaven. The fact that we can read, write, and communicate that's it. Anything that we want to experience, you want to know what electricity feels like, boom, right? Your electricity. You want to know what it looks like. This is what it looks like inside of an electrical beam. You want to know what it looks like when you zoom all the way in on an atom, right? Eventually you see a blue dot, and if you keep going, you'll find a guy sitting outside in a top hat talking about reality. And if you zoom all the way out, eventually you'll see an atom. And if you keep going, right, once you're down here at this level, you look around at all these things, you can go and zoom in on that computer and you can see a microprocessor. You can zoom on this board and see something else. And there's an infinite number of universes in all of this stuff. When you're really, really small, depending on where you are, the space looks empty because the universe is 99.999, however many nines there is, percent empty space. We can't see any of this stuff, but we can see it all because we got these things. These things are tuned for this place. They exist inside of this field. Anyway, now I've gone on for another 31 minutes into this thing. You've gained some knowledge. The gateway into f0110w.substack.com. And this is not just about the mind. This is about business as well. We covered, like, there's math. You got Tony Robbins, Waking the Giant Within. But I get it, man. Like, people got to make money out here. Like, this is a world of and so, like, the main thing is health, or the main things, the three tenets. I'll make a video. I was thinking about recording a video about those earlier, but I was like, I don't know, man. Something just said, turn on this computer and hook up this camera to it, and then just start going and go and just go until you don't feel like you need to keep going. And so I'll be back and I'll keep going at some other point. But yeah, I got this whole whiteboard up here of stuff. And the camera, it probably wants to turn back and see me. But and this is just one of three, but all of this stuff is related. But up here, I've broken out sort of the three tenets: health, wealth, and relationships. Health is a psychological thing. And then it's transmuted in manner. Now, you don't see this on this board. This is just a bunch of different words to you. But that health is then transmuted into the physical world and is turned into wealth by way of activity and emotion in the world. And then from there, right, in order to do all of these things, and the result of all of these things is communication. So in the communication, it is before anything is created, and then it's after everything is created. And that's why in the Bible you have this: in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's in the New Testament. And then in the Old Testament, if you go all the way back to the beginning, the book of Genesis, right? And I'm not exactly where it says it in the King James Bible, but somewhere there's a touching on the Alpha and the Omega. Now, O is a new invention. That the Aleph has been around a long time. Well, I won't say O is a new invention. The O as a vowel is a new invention. Obviously, we always had zero, and then that zero would have been depicted as a monad, or the monad, which would actually be something like this. And this would be you. And that's not a symbol or anything. That's just a sloppy dot inside of a poorly written circle, because I wrote it really fast. But this would be a perfect circle and a perfect dot. And that would be you on the inside, representing the fact that this is your sensory element. And whatever you receive, it comes through here, and it must cross the desert of the real in order to get to you. And then you make a decision on it, and that decision ripples back out to the sensors, and and that vibration is what produces in the physical world what it is that we're existing in or experiencing. And so we had the O. So in the beginning there was the alpha and the omega, right? There was an observer, and then there was something to observe. But there was always, there's always sensors. So in the beginning, let there be light. You wake up, oh shit, there's some stuff. What is this stuff? And then you start your travel. And that's that line that you see in between your life, right? And so let's see. Yeah. So when it goes, yo, you're a born person, right? You got the beginning, the middle, and the end. But the end isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's just a rebirth. So it actually looks something like this. And then if you turn that into a donut, you have a toroidal field, which is actually what the body exists in. But I've made this all complicated. I've drawn this in a crazy way. This is how you would. This is infinity, right? And then as I drew it, I thought of the Mobius strip. And if you don't know what a Mobius strip, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right, a Mobius strip is, it's an infinite plane, but it's an infinite plane in a finite loop, meaning that you're familiar with this number. So the Mobius strip is positioned in such a way that if you're traveling on the top of this apparatus, it twists, and then you'll be on the bottom. So you could be on the outside. Basically what happens is you could go from one side of the plane to the other side of the plane without ever having to leave the surface. You just travel. And if you travel long enough around, you're going to come up on the bottom. So as above is below. And then this is depicted in the 8. So as above is below. There is no beginning, there is no end, there is no end, there is no beginning. All ends are beginnings, and all beginnings are ends. That's what this is telling us. That's just a little bit of the sacred knowledge and wisdom. And then, of course, you have your snowman here that you build once a year to remind you of this. And if you're fortunate enough, you'll talk about it on April Fool's Day, if you remember. Now, on that note, I'm your biggest fan, team, and I will see you in the next broadcast. Peace.